tonight is called Creating a Personal Strategic Plan. I don't have an introduction for it per se, so we can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready. Time. Because we are Toastmasters, I believe that us here in this room, that we in this room, have goals, and we want to be somewhere different than where we are today. We're here because we want to improve. I am astounded at the number of people in this world who live life without a plan. They just exist. They're blown about by every wind or wave or whim that pushes them around, and they end up at the end of their life, I think, with some major regrets. They really don't go anywhere, they just wander around. But I don't think we are built that way. And I would advocate to you to develop, if you haven't already, a personal strategic plan. Just by raise of hands, has anybody ever developed one of these? Personal strategic plan.
Every day.
Every day. Okay, so a few of us. So a few of us. I think that's perfect. So I want to talk to you today about what it means, what is a personal strategic plan, how you put one together, and how to make the most use of it. And I've got a few tips and tricks for you. The first thing, and one of the most challenging parts of doing a personal strategic plan, is making time to do it. Now I have two sources for this. One of them is basically all the material from the Stephen Covey Leadership Institute, from Dr. Stephen Covey. If you've never read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I would highly recommend it. But one of the things that he talks about as a principle of an effective person is a principle called sharpening the saw. And the story goes like this, that there was a person who's using a saw to cut a log. He's cutting a log, and he's tiring himself out. He's tired. And somebody says, hey, that saw is really dull. Why don't you sharpen it? I can't. I'm too busy sawing this piece of wood here. I don't have time to sharpen my saw. But if you sharpen the saw, you'll cut the wood a lot faster than you would have if you would have not made time to actually do it. So that's the first principle. So make time to do it. After that, a strategic plan has several components to it. All right? We're going to start. Are you able to see it? So you start out, I think, with the most important part of it is the foundation. The foundation are your values. Sometimes you might call this a mission statement. But this is the foundation on which everything else in your whole life should rely, right? Some people might think that it is a waste of time, or it's a fluffy thing, or it's not my gig, or whatever, to write down your values, but I would highly encourage you to do this. It might be family, personal development, education. Fundamentally, what do you care about? The second part that I would encourage you to write is actually the roof of this structure. Identify this as your vision. Who do you want to be when you grow up? When you get to the end of this life, who do you want to be? Now, this can be lots of different things. Some people might say, I want to make a lot of money. That's fine. If that's your end vision, you want to be rich when you get old, that's fine. But I would also encourage you to consider, who do you want to be inside? Not just what you have, but who do you want to become? Now the things that support these, I'm going to call these long-term goals. Let's start with that. I would also encourage you to not make more than 2 or 3. Because the more goals there is, an outcome of the Covey Leadership Institute is that if you have more than 2 or 3 goals, the likelihood that you will achieve any of them goes down significantly. So pick 1 or 2 or 3 goals. And these revolve into short-term goals, which are supported by daily actions. Now, one example of how this might work, one of the things that I love and value, I love the mountains. I love to get up and I love to go backpacking up in the mountains. But in order to be able to do that, I actually have to be in relatively reasonable physical condition. Backpacks are heavy. Mountains are way up high. They're, 10,000 feet and above. And if you're not in very good shape, you don't get very far. So in order to support this vision or long-term goal, I guess wherever I end up fitting it, my short-term goals have to be to stay in good physical shape. Well, I find it very hard to get out and exercise every day to be motivated just by that. So I set myself some short-term goals to say go run a 5K or to go run a 10K, and I put that out 3 months into the future, and I work backwards to say if I'm going to be ready for that race, I've got to do this. But then when I want to go and I go hiking in the mountains, I'm ready to do that because I've hit all the short-term things. So just an example. I have a couple of tips and tricks for you. First one is that when you're setting up long-term, short-term goals and actions, consider doing it for the different roles you play in your life. Okay? My different roles, I figure there are 4 or 5 of them. First of all, I'm an individual. Second, I'm a spouse. Third, I'm a father. And fourth, I'm an employee. Fifth, I am a member of a church. Those are my 5 different roles that I play in my life. And so I'll go through and set 1 or 2 or 3 goals for each of those roles that I have in my life. And that way, wherever I happen to be focused, I know what I'm working toward. The next tip is don't overdo it. If you make this too complicated, this should not be more than 1 page, for example, maybe 2 pages, maybe a page per role, but something relatively simple. Once you do that, you'll be more likely to accomplish those goals. Third tip is once you have a plan in place, don't let it constrain you. If you find that your life changes, don't be unwilling to change your plan too. Have a new vision. I think of this in terms of, and maybe I'm a morbid person for thinking this, but if I were to, for example, get in a car wreck and lose the function of my legs, I'm not going to be hiking any mountains anymore, but I'm not going to sit around and waste away either. I'm going to go find something else to do, to find a new vision. So be willing to change your plan when you need to. The last thing I would share with you, be careful what you dream. Because with your dreams, no matter how big and great they are, and a strategic plan to back you up, you are very likely to achieve them. Mr. Toastmaster.